Good morning, all of you. My name is Rajendra, and my today's topic is about IC engine. IC engine means the long form of IC. I means internal, and C means combustion. So today's our topic is internal combustion engine. How this engine is working? What is the principle of engine? Today we will learn this from this video, and this video is very useful for ITI students and faculties who belongs from mechanical section. So let's see this video and enjoy it and learn. So today our topic is internal combustion engine, 4-stroke and 2-stroke. When we are looking here, stroke means what? Stroke means the piston is working in cylinder TDC to BDC. Sometimes piston comes to the TDC and sometimes pistons come to the BDC. When piston is working TDC to BDC and BDC to TDC, it's called stroke. In engine, in 4-stroke engine, there is a main 4 strokes are there. 4-stroke engine, there is a 4 strokes. Which one? That one. So the first stroke is a intake stroke. The first stroke is a intake stroke. You can see in this image, the figure, 4-stroke spark ignition. Today we are going to learn about the spark ignition engine, means petrol engine. 4-stroke spark ignition engine means petrol engine. Intake, the first stroke is known as intake. Intake stroke. In this stroke, what will be happen in engine? We will see. Intake. Intake also known as induction or suction stroke. The stroke of the piston begins at top dead center and ends at bottom dead center. Top dead center means TDC and bottom dead center means BDC. So in intake stroke, piston begins from top dead center. Piston is begins from the top dead center means TDC, and its drive is end in BDC means bottom dead center. In the stroke, intake valve must be open into the cylinder. When we are looking the stroke, the intake stroke, the first thing, intake also known as a induction or suction stroke. This stroke of the piston begins from TDC and ends in BDC. And this intake stroke, intake valve must be in the open position. In the open position. You can see in image, when intake stroke is going on in the engine, that time intake valve must be open position, while the piston pulls an air and fuel mixture into the cylinder. When intake valve is open, that time only piston is sucking air and fuel mixture inside the cylinders by producing vacuum pressure into the cylinder through its downward motion. The piston is moving down as air is sucked in by the downward motion against the piston, against the piston. And when piston is come in BDC point, this stroke is completed. This is the first stroke, working stroke in the engine. Its name is a intake stroke. Intake stroke. In this stroke, we can see the piston position. How piston drive? Piston drive from TDC to BDC. This is the first point. Second point, what? In this stroke, intake valve must be open. Intake valve must be open. And the third point, when intake valve is open, that time exhaust valve must be closed. Must be closed. And fourth point, when intake valve is open and piston is moving from TDC to BDC, that time it's sucking petrol and air mixture inside the cylinder and piston comes in BDC and the stroke is completed. This is the first stroke in 4-stroke spark ignition. Its name is intake stroke. Intake stroke. You will see the second stroke of the engine, its name is a compression stroke. Its name is a compression stroke. So we can see here compression. The stroke begins from BDC. The stroke begins from BDC because the first stroke is ended in BDC. Suction stroke is ended in BDC. So the next stroke is start from BDC only and piston is moving from BDC or just at the end of the suction stroke or just at the end of the suction stroke and ends is on TDC and end is at TDC. In this stroke, the piston compresses the air and fuel mixture in preparation for the ignition during the power stroke. See, in compression stroke, piston is begun from BDC and moving up to the TDC. That time what it's doing? It's compressing the air and fuel mixture. It's compressing fuel and air mixture. And that time we can see the both valves are closed. Intake valve also closed and exhaust valve also closed. And when it's moving from BDC to TDC, that time piston is preparation. It's preparation for ignition during the power stroke. Below, both the intake and exhaust valves are closed during this stage. During this stage. This is the second stroke of the engine. The first stroke is the intake. We seen in intake stroke, piston is moving from TDC to BDC. The first point we learned. After that, second point, when intake stroke is going on, that time intake valve is open and exhaust is closed. Third point, when intake valve is open, that time piston is sucking air and fuel mixture inside the cylinder. And fourth, it's come BDC and there is a intake stroke completed. Second stroke we learn in compression stroke. The first point, piston is moving from BDC to TDC and this time which mixture is come into the cylinder in intake stroke, that mixture is compressing. Piston is compressing that mixture. This is the second point. And third point, in this stroke, the both valves, intake and compression, both valves are closed. And piston is preparing to the charge for ignition in this stroke. And piston, last point, it's come on the TDC. It's come on the TDC. And here the second stroke is completed. You can see the image also, so you can understood very well. Now we are going to see the third stroke. The third stroke, and this is very powerful stroke, and its name also power stroke. Its name also power stroke. When we are looking the power stroke, that time, see, in this stroke, combustion. Sometime the stroke is called as a combustion stroke. Called as a combustion stroke. Combustion means what? Combustion means fire. Combustion means fire. Just we see combustion, also known as power or ignition stroke. See, another names are there. The first name is a combustion, second name is a power, or third name is a ignition stroke. So sometimes some people are calling this stroke combustion stroke, some people are calling power stroke, and some people are calling ignition stroke. This is the start of the second revolution of the four-stroke cycle. The stroke is start. The stroke is start of the second revolution of the four-stroke cycle. At this point, the crankshaft has completed a full 360-degree revolution. The crankshaft is completed a full 360-degree revolution. While the piston is at TDC, while the piston is at TDC, means the ending of the compression stroke, piston is comes to the TDC. On that point, what here wrote there? What they are wrote here? While the piston is at TDC, the end of the compression stroke, the compressed air and fuel mixture is ignited by the spark plug. Ignited by the spark plug. In a gasoline engines, means in a petrol engines. In petrol engines, we are using spark plugs to ignite fuel and air mixture. To ignite fuel and air mixture, or by heat generated by high compression diesel engine. In diesel engine, we can see the injector is there. There is a one injector, and that is from that injector, that engines are spraying. The injectors are spraying diesel. So forcefully returning the piston when we are giving ignite from the spark plug, that time that air and fuel mixture is burned. When air and fuel mixture is burned, that time full pressure is there, gas pressure is there, because gas are trying to expansion. Gas are trying to expansion, and both walls are closed. There is no place to go outside gases. Then gas is pulling the piston TDC to BDC. TDC to BDC. And piston is comes to BDC. Piston is comes to BDC. And here power stroke is completed. In first stroke, we seen the suction stroke. The first point, piston moving TDC to BDC in intake stroke. In intake stroke, intake valve is open and exhaust valve is closed. The third thing, when piston moving TDC to BDC, that time intake valve open, so piston is sucking air mixture and fuel inside the cylinder. And fourth thing, piston is come to the end, means BDC, and first stroke is completed. We learned that. Second stroke, compression. Compression is begun from the BDC, and piston is moving from BDC to TDC. This is the first point. Second point, what? Both valves are closed, intake and exhaust, and there is no place for mixture or fuel to go outside. and piston is compressing that mixture or charge and increasing temperature. And that next point is when mixture is compressed, that time the temperature is increased. That time by spark plug we are giving ignition. We are igniting the charge and suddenly that charge is converted into the gas and that gas is pulling piston down and piston is coming to the BDC. Like the suction, compression and power strokes are happening in engine. Let's see the four stroke. The four stroke of the engine is a exhaust stroke. Exhaust stroke. Exhaust stroke. Exhaust means what? The way to go out. The way to go out. The exhaust stroke is the final phase in a four-stroke engine. This is the final phase. The first phase is a suction, second phase is a compression, third is a power, and this is the final phase in the four-stroke engine. In this phase, the piston moves upward, sequencing, upward, C. In power stroke, piston is coming on BDC and the four stroke is begun from BDC to TDC. Piston is moving BDC to TDC. Piston is moving BDC to TDC. And when we are looking here, the piston moves upward, upward sequence, out the gases that were created during the combustion stroke. When piston is moving upward from BDC to TDC, that time exhaust valve is open, intake is closed. In exhaust stroke, exhaust valve is open, intake is closed, and by the exhaust valve, the gases is exit the cylinder through an exhaust valve at the top of the cylinder. At the top of the cylinder. So today we learn about the engine, IC engine four-stroke cycle. IC engine four-stroke cycle. In this, the first stroke is a suction stroke, second compression stroke, third power stroke, fourth exhaust stroke, correct, exhaust stroke. Just randomly we are looking this one. In intake stroke, piston moves TDC to BDC. That time only intake valve open, exhaust close. And by piston, suction is there. And because of that suction and vacuum, the charge is entering through the inlet valve. That charge is entering inside the cylinder. And piston is coming on BDC. Second stroke, compression. In compression stroke, piston is moving from BDC to TDC. That time both valves are closed. Intake valve also closed and exhaust valve also closed. And that time which charge is inside the cylinder, piston is compressing that charge. Piston is compressing that charge. And it's moving upward, BDC to TDC. In the last end point, by the spark plug, we are giving spark or igniting the charge. That time suddenly gases are expand and it's pulling to the piston from TDC to BDC. In this stroke also, in power stroke also, both valves are closed and piston is moving from TDC to BDC. In exhaust stroke, we see piston again start to move upward from BDC to TDC. In this stroke, exhaust valve is open and intake is closed and all exhaust gases through an exhaust valve at the top of the cylinder it's going outside. Exhaust gas are going outside. So friends, I want to share you this information with you. I think you can understand this thing. Learn and enjoy. Thank you.